Oh, yes. As we come together this day, we hear some familiar readings, texts that spring to life for us. I'm curious, first off, as we move into this time together, how many of you have been to a wedding, a commitment ceremony, a blessing, where you have heard the prophets from 1 Corinthians, or the words from 1 Corinthians 13 read? How many have attended a wedding in which those words were read? The follow-up question, for those of you who are married or partnered, how many of you had those words read at your ceremony? Several, yes. As we come together this day, we hear those words about love. And Krister Stendahl, who was a professor at Harvard Divinity School, and before that had been a bishop in the Church of Sweden, noted that in church we need to get away from every Sunday preaching about love. You should only preach about it when it's there in the text, because it becomes an easy out for pastors to just talk about how good things are and how we should love one another. But he also said that when that text comes home, you better hit it out of the ballpark and let people know that they are called to live in this love and this care for one another. One myth to debunk, though, as we come to this is we like to think of two people standing in front of the congregation, holding each other's hands, and hearing these wonderful words floating over them about how love is patient and kind, not arrogant or boastful or rude. All of these things that love is. And if I were standing in front of a whole assembly, I think I would be looking with fear and trepidation at that person across from me and saying, I'm never going to be able to live all of this. Right? That there is so much packed into these verses. How is it even possible? Additionally, we need to realize that these texts are not about two solitary individuals coming together in a marriage. These texts are meant to be about community. It is agape love. It is the communal love in how we care and live into our life together, this community into which Jesus calls us. What does that mean? What does that look like? That these words are about each of us stepping from our comfort zone into what it means to care for our brother and sister who have said, I want to live in community with you. In this congregation, in the larger church. And that I am going to do my darndest not to speak ill of you. That when things aren't going quite right, I am going to refrain from being envious or boastful or knocking you down. That I am going to work to put my best self forward for the sake of this one who claims us in love, who challenges us to be a new people, a new community in this communal love. And that's hard work. As I think about this text coupled with the text that comes to us from the Gospel of Luke, I can't help but be transported back to when I was a kid. Growing up in a small town, I knew all of my classmates from probably when we were 3 or 4 through when we graduated from high school. And it was when we were in 5th grade, I remember, that things got really rocky. We had been friends and had worked together on all of this stuff, but somehow competition entered in. And also, I think we grew. Some grew quickly, some were a little slower, so you had different sizes. You also had people who were maybe a little more aggressive and those who were a little more timid. And what a microcosm of our larger society and our larger church. That we have people of all different sizes, of all different personality types. Many of us have known each other for a long period of time, have worked and striven together. And we struggle at times with what it means to be in community. And also, who maybe has not yet been brought into that community. Now in 5th grade, one of my best friends was a young fellow named Eddie Snyder. And we were out playing tag football. And I remember that there was a big bruiser. He's turned out to be a good guy. But his name was Jamie Olson. And I remember at that point in time, as we were playing tag football, Jamie Olson went barreling towards Eddie, who was carrying the ball, put out his hands and shoved him. And Eddie fell. And fell hard. And Eddie got up and he was mad. Here, we were playing a game where all of us were involved. This was about community and fun. And I don't know that Jamie actually meant to shove him that hard. I actually don't think he was aware of how strong and how big he was. But of course, Eddie was mad, and then Jamie got mad, and then I got involved. Now, I was used to being the peacemaker in a lot of ways, but this is one day where I really fell short. Because as tempers went up, and here was this big kid bullying one of my best friends, I put up my arm and I socked Jamie in the mouth, and he fell to the ground. Now, for about 5 or 10 minutes, I was the hero on the playground. But I went home that night, and I felt horrible. What had happened? What had happened to this little community that we had of friends, classmates, who had grown up to each other and had cared for each other, when all of a sudden some little incident changes, hurts, and causes us to be different people?